WAOH is brought to you in part by Ohio's #1 trusted real estate team, The Young Team. Online at theyoungteam.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Good Morning Akron. And today I am here with a very special guest, CEO of the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank, Dan Flowers. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Sam. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Love the set, love the station, what you're doing. Good Morning Akron. What a cool idea. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I wanted to ask, maybe for anyone, I don't know, who's not aware, or maybe you're living underneath a rock, what is the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank, and what is it that you guys provide for us?
Great question. It's how I lead off a lot of things I talk about. And I could really take us into Good Evening Akron with the length of that response.
Right.
You know, having spent my whole career doing it, but just, you know, on the high and tight. The Akron Canton Regional Food Bank is the primary source of food for about 625 soup kitchens, food pantries, homeless shelters in Medina, Summit, Portage, Wayne, Stark, Tuscarawas, Carroll, and Holmes counties. We service 8 counties. And so we are the food provider for those charities. So if you have a food pantry in your church that serves the community on Wednesday nights, there's every chance that your church is getting that food from the food bank. And the big agencies in town too. You know, you think about like Open M. I was just at their breakfast this morning. They're one of our big partners. We supply their food.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. We'll distribute about 40 million pounds of food this year.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
40 million pounds?
40 million pounds.
And that's a lot of mouths to feed as well.
Oh, yeah. We reach every year between 250 and 300,000 people through this network. So truly, almost anyone who visits a food pantry, and those numbers track a lot with poverty numbers in general. If poverty is around 10%, we'll roughly see that number of visitors unduplicated through the food bank network during the course of a year in our service area. So there's always a correlation between the number of people in poverty and the number of people you see.
Right.
Once you get scale at a food bank, which we've been fortunate to achieve over the years.
Right. And when you're thinking about all of the product that you guys need to fill all of these people, to feed all of these people, looking at it statistically wise, how do you guys kind of estimate what you're going to need for how many people you're going to have to feed?
Great question. Food banks arose out of the existence of surplus food.
Okay.
So in the late 60s, a retired businessman was volunteering at a soup kitchen in Phoenix, Arizona. And he overheard 2 people that were eating food at the soup kitchen talk about a food company nearby that was throwing food away. And he thought, I'm just going to go down to this company and ask them, instead of throwing it away, would they donate it to the soup kitchen?
Right.
Well, they agreed, and he started picking up food there. And then he just thought, I'm just going to start asking other food companies to donate food. And before long, he was bringing back more food to the soup kitchen than they could use. So he started sharing it with other charities. And those charities were getting so much food that they decided to everyone chip in and get a warehouse. And then they'll just store the food there, and all the charities, and that way they can bring all the food they get to this warehouse, and all the charities can go and pick it up. And they called it a food bank.
Wow.
That was in 1967, and it's the St. Mary's Food Bank. If you go to firstfoodbank.org, that's the St. Mary's Food Bank website, the very first food bank. And so the concept spread across the country, but it was based upon the availability of surplus food at manufacturers, wholesalers, and distributors. And so in the years after World War II, we industrialized food production in this country. And instead of having maybe a few loaves of bread at a local bakery, we had a few truckloads of bread at a bread making factory.
And that's a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. So it's scale. And so food banks emerged around scale in the industrial food system that we have now in this country. And so that's how our food bank started. A big part of my job, and we have a team of people working at the food bank that go to food companies, and we ask them to donate food to us.
Of course.
And you'd be surprised at the volume of food. Truckloads of food come in. We also get government food. The USDA, the state of Ohio have programs where they give food to us as well. So our emphasis at the food bank is the food supply. We gather that food, we bring it to our warehouses, because we have 2 buildings now, one in Akron, another brand new big food bank in Canton, and we store that there and we distribute it to charities from that location. That's our primary work.
Right.
We also operate 2 pantries directly. At our Akron location, we have a food pantry open right now. There's a line of people standing out waiting to get food at this pantry, and I'm sure it's the same way in Canton right now. They're open right now as well. So that's kind of the landscape. I always want it to be really clear for people who we are in the process, because there are churches that call their food pantry a food bank.
Right.
And so often when people come for a tour of our warehouse, they're like, wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was.
Exactly. They are 2 very different things.
They're 2 very different things, right? So like we are a scaled warehousing supply kind of organization to bring in surplus food to then distribute to charities.
Right.
That's
so
our
you
primary
guys
job.
are the spot that it gets taken to before it gets distributed and then sold.
You're exactly right. Yep. With
Right.
the exception of 2 pantries now that we operate directly, and we've just started doing that in the last 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And speaking of like supply and demand, I've seen recently that there has been some federal cuts
Mm-hmm.
to the food banks. What are some of the issues that you guys have been facing with that? And what are some things that you guys have had to combat ever since that's happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, people ask me all the time, how's things going down at the food bank? And my response a lot is like, we're holding our breath.
Right.
I mean, the amount of money we have to raise, the amount of food we have to gather every year, it's tremendous. And we kind of came into 2025 thinking there might be some headwinds. About a quarter of our food is funded through the state of Ohio, and about another quarter of it comes from the USDA. And we knew that the state budget was going to renew this year, and we knew there was a new administration in Washington.
Right.
So we kind of came into the year anticipating some potential cuts, and we found them. We found out, actually, a story ran in Politico in February about USDA cuts.
Right.
It's interesting. We're going to be about 2.5 to 3 million pounds down in USDA food this year.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awful.
and we still haven't received like a contract amendment or like a formal notice.
Right,
The
and
food
you
just stopped
guys-
coming.
Right. And you guys are also very, I'm guessing, volunteer based. So that turns back onto the community while you guys are trusting the community now, like, hey, we need more donations after these cuts, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so when the USDA cut us by 2.5 to 3 million pounds in the first quarter, we found out later it was essentially July 1st that the state budget passed with another 2.5 to 3 million pound cut for us. So about 20% of our food was cut by the first half of the year.
And
Sure.
that's more than double what you guys were expecting with the previous cut and then the other cut.
Yeah, well, we thought there would be potential cuts.
Right.
We knew what they were
Right.
after the 1st of July. And so then we knew all year long, people were like, hey, we're hearing about this USDA, what's happening? And I'm like, well, the state budget's still being decided. We're going to find out about that later. We'll know in July where we stand. Well, now we do know, pretty big cuts. So your comment about volunteers and the local community picking up that slack, that's what's extraordinary about working in Northeast Ohio. Because we had some food companies come forward with some big food donations this
wow,
year.
that's amazing.
Some individual donors come forward. And so we've been able to not lose ground after a 20% cut in food. And if and like, it's funny because I told the board in the fall, like, we're expecting some headwinds going into 2025.
Right.
And so we came up with a very conservative plan. And now looking back at it, I'm glad we planned that way, but this community's generosity that's made it so we haven't lost ground compared to last year in the light of the biggest cuts we've ever received. It's very extraordinary. What a wonderful community we live in.
Of course. And I'm so happy that people are able to recognize that this is so important. And
Yeah.
so many people need this, and that the community is taking the steps to step in and help people. Now, looking at it from a person who is going to the food bank, a person who eats there regularly, what does it kind of look like for the average consumer now that you guys are facing these cuts?
Well, so great question. The food that we get from the USDA and the state of Ohio, it's about 47% of the food we got last year was from those 2 sources.
Okay.
So big chunk.
Right.
Some of the best food we get. I mean, the USDA, they clear surpluses in commodity markets. And so depending on what is in overproduction on the sort of national food industry, yeah, that's usually what we'll see. So a lot of times it's like chickens, turkeys, pork products, protein, what I call center of the plate things. The same is true with the state of Ohio. They fund an agricultural program where we get like state-grown produce. And so two of the most nutritious things we get, USDA and state food, that's what got cut. So we've been trying to make up for those cuts with local donations. And, if we get a truckload of Splenda, we're glad to have it, but it's not the same as a truckload of canned pork.
Right.
So, that's been something our agencies have been very concerned about. So I'm able to say like, well, we haven't lost ground overall, but the mix has changed a little this year. And I think that's what people are probably experiencing at food pantries when they go to get help.
Right.
Maybe there isn't the same amount of center of the plate items. Maybe there's, more cookies and crackers than we'd like to see all the time.
Right.
And so that's the thing about a food bank. What we have in our warehouse is contingent upon what's given to us. We don't decide.
Exactly. It's all what's brought in.
It's what is given to us.
And it's there when it's there.
Exactly. And so, we're fortunate to have pretty good equilibrium with supply and demand. But when there's a shift in something as critical as government food for us, it does have a material impact on the diversity of products that are available at food pantries.
Right. And you also, going back to the community and it being such a large help, where can people donate to you? Can they just walk into the food bank and give you guys donations?
Sure.
What is the best way for people to give you guys the chicken, the pork, the middle plate items that you guys need?
Yeah, well, there's two great ways to get involved with the food bank. One, just volunteer. If you visit akroncantonfoodbank.org, you can register to be a volunteer. We always need help sorting food donations. We need volunteers at our pantry. Right now in our pantry, I think we have 20 volunteers in Akron and 20 right now in Canton. Just doing that. Corporate groups and they're sorting food drive donations. It's constant. So akroncantonfoodbank.org, you can sign up to volunteer. Obviously, we survive on financial donations.
Right.
And you can make a donation also at our website, akroncantonfoodbank.org. Finally, I'll say on that is that if you need food, there's a food finder on our website as well, where you can find when our pantries are open, when pantries in the community are open, and if there's one near you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Dan, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on and talk about the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank and what they have to
Is that it?
us.
We were just getting started. I'd love to come back and talk
Yes,
some
of
more.
course.
Yeah, I'd love to talk some more. Thank you for
Unfortunately,
the
I
opportunity.
think we're out of time. We'd be going into Good Evening Akron.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But we would love to have you back on to keep talking about this, bring up more issues and whatnot. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We always appreciate the support. We'll be back with more right after this.